Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 156, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, the topic for today's video, leaks, leaks, leaks. Nothing but leaks. Fortunately, some leaks are good. And let's go ahead and talk about some of them today. First off, oh yes, you're going to like this story. A series of email conversations between Rob Wheeler and Fox News reporter Malia Zimmerman is up on Big League Politics. A source close to Big League Politics has stated that Seth Rich had a very heated conversation and an extremely heated verbal confrontation with Donna Brazile regarding the DNC's treatment of Bernie Sanders just weeks prior to his death. Also, we are learning something else, and this has to do with Seth Rich's brother, Aaron, who is kind of a mystery in this whole thing because of the behavior that he's exhibiting. We're not really sure what is going on with him, but I've noticed this over time, is that Seth Rich's brother has certainly done everything he could to impede Rob Wheeler's investigation into the death of Seth Rich, Aaron's brother. In a conversation, which is related in this email leak, between Rob Wheeler and Aaron Rich, Seth's brother, it is noted that Aaron is trying to block Wheeler from investigating the murder of Seth Rich, and he's also, at the same time, he's claiming in this email conversation from Rob Wheeler regarding the phone call he had with Aaron Rich, that Aaron Rich told him that he's got Seth's computer and he's got Seth's cell phones. And when Rob Wheeler asked Aaron if he would mind if he came over and took a look at them, Aaron Rich basically said, no, what do you want to look at them for? Blah, 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 blah. No, thanks. That's all been taken care of. There's nothing there for you to look at. Just forget about it. So Aaron Rich, Seth's brother, seems to be, for whatever reason no one can really understand, not very interested in getting any help from Mr. Wheeler. He certainly doesn't like people like myself who talk about alternative theories, because the one that we've been given so far doesn't add up. But the most important thing to take away from this particular leaked conversation between Rob Wheeler, the detective, who's now suing Fox News, and Mr. Butowski, but this conversation, this email conversation between the Fox News reporter Malia Zimmerman and Rob Wheeler, what we learn that's important is something that we already had a pretty good idea of, but now we know for sure that in fact Seth Rich did have a very heated confrontation with Donna Brazile over the treatment of Bernie Sanders by the DNC during the 2016 campaign. And this of course feeds exactly into the narrative that I laid out about a week and a half ago in a video where I told you that I believe that the beginning of this entire Russia narrative, the whole thing, Russia hacked the DNC, the whole thing, I think, began with the discovery of Seth Rich leaking those emails to WikiLeaks. I think this is what caused CrowdStrike to come in and set up the fake Guccifer 2.0 to discredit WikiLeaks. And then, of course, a few weeks later, in comes Fusion GPS. I think they look at the situation and decide to piggyback on that and to play the Trump-Russia collusion. I think that's what led to, if you look what happens next in the timeline, then we get the meeting with Trump Jr. and Veselnitskaya, and the other people there, which tells me that once they came up with this idea of creating this Trump discredit WikiLeaks, associate WikiLeaks with Russians, and then associate Trump with Russians and with WikiLeaks and the whole 9 yards. And then you need some things to try to feed that narrative. And I believe that's the whole reason that that meeting was set up with Veselnitskaya. Veselnitskaya was set up, and Donald Trump Jr. was set up. Veselnitskaya was set up because she thought that she was getting a meeting with the son of what could be the next president so that she could pitch her case about her client regarding the Magnitsky Act. She was just hoping to get a meeting with Donald Trump Jr. so that he could be informed of her position, hoping he would share that with his father and that they might get some traction. That was how she was set up. She was told that that's what they would be able to talk about and look into. Of course, she was set up because she found out within moments of being into the meeting that no one was really interested in talking about the Magnitsky Act or anything else. They were looking for that Hillary dirt. Donald Trump Jr. was set up because he was told that he was going to get some dirt on Hillary. And what he got was a pitch from a Russian lawyer representing her client, trying to get Donald Trump Jr. to have some sympathy for her client regarding the Magnitsky Act. Clearly, they were both set up. They were both given false information about why they were getting together, which means that their whole point of getting together for either of those reasons was null and void. Didn't matter. Had nothing to do with anything. So why were the two put together? There's only one reason. Just so they could be together. Just so you could say that Trump Jr. met with Ann Manafort and Kushner were in a private meeting with the Russian lawyer. And of course we had the other guy, the other Russian lawyer who acts as a translator and a lobbyist. We had him in there as well and a few other people. So it was just another way of feeding into the narrative. And then that would later, at the appropriate time, be leaked. And this all stems from, if you follow everything in reverse, go backwards, it all seems to start with the leaks from the DNC, which we now know 99.999% sure Seth Rich. We certainly now know that Seth Rich, for a fact, we now know that Seth Rich, because before we didn't have any real corroborating evidence that Seth Rich was A, 100% a Bernie Sanders supporter, B, concerned about the way Sanders was being treated, and 3, was motivated to do something to even the score. But now we know that in fact he A, was a Bernie Sanders supporter, a hardcore Bernie Sanders supporter, and a progressive. He B, was upset about the treatment of Bernie Sanders, and we now know that he took his case directly to Donna Brazile, his boss, and we know that they had a very heated confrontation over the issue. We also know it was Donna Brazile who was contacted actually by the Metro Police Department, which we assume that was done by the chief at the time, Kathleen Lanier. That's speculation, but someone at the Washington Metro Police Department contacted Donna Brazile and said, hey, there's some detective, former detective named Rob Wheeler, who is contacting our detectives here and asking questions and wanting to have meetings with people about Seth Rich. That phone call happened immediately after he contacted some people he knew at the police department, after Wheeler contacted some of these detectives. The next thing you know, shortly thereafter, that's when he gets a phone call. Now we know that because Rob Wheeler contacted Joel Rich, Seth Rich's father, and told him about what happened. And Joel Rich said that right after, shortly after the time that Wheeler claims that he tried to contact these detectives, that they got the phone call there at the Rich residence, wanting to know why they had this private detective sniffing around. It also appears that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, whose brother is an assistant DA and certainly has some influence over the case, that she was also snooping around wanting to know what Wheeler had learned from the detectives. What did Wheeler learn? What did the detectives say? And then we'll find out later as we get into this video that Wheeler had one meeting with this detective, which we covered yesterday or 2 days ago. We covered 2 days ago the notes from the meeting that Rob Wheeler took, which were leaked. And we now know that he set up a second meeting, a follow-up meeting, which was going to include some members of Congress. And the detective was a no-show, no-call. And from that, Rob Wheeler determined that someone had gotten to him and let him know that he will not be attending any more meetings with the private detective in the matters regarding Seth Rich. Want more proof? Let's go. Big League Politics is also reporting Patrick Hawley, Fox 5 DC, which, if you remember, Fox 5 DC was the original news station that reported the Seth Rich connection to possibly being the WikiLeaks leaker. This was back like within 2 weeks after he was killed, early August. So Fox 5 DC was the station that originally reported that Seth Rich was the possible WikiLeaks source, and that he handed over more than 44,000 emails. Now we're still trying to find out how that reporter got that number of 44,000 emails. It's a very interesting number to come up with, isn't it? Well, it's even more interesting when you look at the following. When you look at WikiLeaks index page, WikiLeaks includes on their index page regarding Seth Rich a note at the top of the page which states that the group published 44,053 emails that came from the account of a senior that came from the accounts of senior DNC officials' email accounts. So now we have WikiLeaks making a note at the top of the page of the exact number of emails that they received regarding the DNC leaks, that number being 44,053. And it was more than a year earlier, when Fox 5 DNC, who first assigned possible blame of leaks to WikiLeaks to Seth Rich, their initial number that they gave at that time, more than a year ago, was 44,000 emails. More than 44,000 emails. You know, Assange has done every damn thing but come out and say Seth Rich was the leaker. He's done everything but that. You just simply cannot look at these facts and come to any other conclusion. A YouTube video has been discovered showing Seymour Hersh and Gavin McFadden meeting together in Berlin in March of 2016. Now keep in mind, Mr. McFadden was a WikiLeaks operative. He is deceased now, but he was a WikiLeaks operative who was reported to be the one that coordinated the leak of the emails from Seth Rich to WikiLeaks. Apparently he's the guy who showed Seth Rich, hey, here's how we do it at WikiLeaks. I'm a coordinator. We find a Dropbox, we set up a Dropbox, you do this, then I contact WikiLeaks, then they do this. And so he's the one that coordinated between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks to get those WikiLeaks emails there. Now we know that Seymour Hersh, a great journalist, an honest journalist, a true journalist, a real journalist, came out about a week and a half ago in a radio interview and stated that his source, high-level source in the FBI, had laid his very eyes on the file for Seth Rich, and they know for a fact that he had leaked thousands of emails, which he regarded as a sample to a Dropbox, and that WikiLeaks was able to access that Dropbox and publish those emails. And he also stated that the emails stopped just before Rich's murder. So we now have Seymour Hersh shown in a video sitting right next to, apparently in conversation with, Mr. McFadden, the man who was probably the go-between between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks. Do you still need more proof that Seth Rich was the person who leaked those emails to WikiLeaks? Of course, someone made a comment regarding the fact that Loretta Lynch, we learned from the ACLJ, American Center for Law and Justice, from the recent dump they got of documents that they requested from the Department of Justice regarding the meeting on the plane between Slick Willie and Loretta Lynch. And what they got was about 400 and some odd pages of notes about that, most of it redacted, but certainly enough to prove the case that I laid out, that was laid out, I did this 2 days ago. So we know that these documents show that Loretta Lynch used a fake name, Elizabeth Carlisle, which I believe is her mother's maiden name, to discuss her meeting with Slick Willie on the tarmac. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm a little curious why they would have to redact so much of the notes from the conversations between the FBI and the Department of Justice about a meeting that took place that was about nothing more than golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. Why would you need to redact all those pages if all the conversation was golf, Brexit, and grandchildren? Possibly because the conversation had nothing to do with golf, Brexit, or grandchildren. It probably had a lot to do with Hillary's email investigation and the fact that just 3 days, really less than 3 days, 2 days after that tarmac meeting, Hillary was going to be going in for her little meeting with the FBI, where I'm sure they probably did talk about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. Probably had some white wine and crumpets, and probably had a damn good laugh. That's what I think. Imran Awan did work for the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. That's strange, isn't it? You know who else worked for the Democratic National Committee? A guy named Seth Rich. You might have heard of him. Is it possible that Awan knew Seth Rich? And of course, I told you that it's a very high-powered expensive Clinton lawyer, and actually a whole legal team that is now representing Mr. Awan. They're the one who apparently paid his bail and got him out of jail. So I have a question to pose to all of you in the comments section. Who do you think is paying Chris Gowen? This is the name of the attorney, Chris Gowen, Gowen. Google him. Look at his website. Look at all the attributions he makes to his work for the Clintons over the years and his relationship with them. Who do you think is paying Mr. Gowen's legal fees? Who do you think that could be? You think it could be the Clintons, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, John Podesta, the DNC, Mr. Soros, John Magoo? Who do you think is paying Mr. Gowen's legal fees to defend and represent Mr. Awan? That's a very interesting question. I'm sure some of you have some ideas who that may be. Or else maybe he's doing it pro bono, just like Mr. Bauman. Yes, that's right. Mr. Bauman and his firm taking care of the Seth Rich situation purely out of the love of their heart. Right. I'm sure someone's paying Mr. Bauman and his firm quite well for their representation as well. I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but the next time I'm in the neighborhood, I will fly over it, drive around it, or dig under it. Because I don't want to be in Arizona. There's something going on there. We already know about Senator Magoo, but we have another senator there, Jeff Flake, who I like to refer to as Jeff the Flake. Here is some of his recent activities. Arizona Senator Jeff the Flake doesn't like the lock her up chant. No. He doesn't like the lock her up chant. And he has stated he will join the resistance against Trump. A little late to the party, aren't you, buddy? You've been on that bandwagon since the very beginning. Mr. Jeff the Flake. Also, he has a 180% opposite view on immigration from Trump. Jeff the Flake wants to give nearly all illegal immigrants legal status. And he wants to increase the number of newcomers that America takes in each year. And more importantly, Flake wants to purge Trump supporters from the GOP. Now that's kind of funny. Purge the Trump supporters from the GOP. Oh, you mean those close to 50 million people who voted for Trump over 17 other Republicans to be the GOP nominee? The Trump Republicans that are continuing to support him and voted for him in the contest against Hillary Rotten Clinton, where he defeated her soundly by over 70 electoral votes. So in Jeff the Flake's mind, he thinks that people should jump on his bandwagon, and as opposed to the bandwagon that's being pulled by the 50 million or so Trump supporters. It sounds to me like he's on the wrong end of the stick. You see, Jeff the Flake, it's not the Trump supporters, whose numbers are, of course, in the tens of millions, close to 50 million, do not need to be purged from the Republican Party. It is you, Jeff the Flake, that needs to be purged from the Republican Party. And as I said, as we get closer to the 2018 election, I'll be taking a look at the various senators who will be up for re-election. Everybody in the House is up for re-election. That's easy. But we need to look at the senators. Only 1/3 of them will be up. We'll have to look and see if Jeff the Flake is one of those senators who will be facing re-election in 2018 or 2020. And he needs to be defeated. He needs to be defeated. What an asshole. Sean Hannity, he's fed up. Sean Hannity is learned through somebody, probably the same guy that told Rand Paul that he was being surveilled, has learned that he possibly might have been one of the people who was surveilled and then whose conversations were unmasked. So he is now hired what he says is the 4 best attorneys in the country, and he is going after the Obama administration for their illegal surveillance and unmasking. He says if he finds out that he was one of those people, just like Rand Paul and some others, who find out that they were surveilled and unmasked, they're going to drop the hammer. They're going to sue for huge damages. They're going to go for the criminal route, if possible, to turn it over to the criminal division of the FBI or the Justice Department. But they're going to do the legwork. He's going to put up the money. He's got millions of dollars. He's a very rich man. He can certainly afford the dream team, legal team, to get to the bottom of that and find out if he was in fact surveilled and unmasked. And if he was, he will certainly push it. Well, you know, that's what we talk about here at TowerGate, Mr. Hannity. I also appreciate the fact that your producers watch my videos and obviously help you with some topics to discuss on your show. I have no problem with that, Mr. Hannity. In fact, I'm looking forward to contacting you in the next few months again, as I have on several occasions, or your producers, not you personally, but your producers, and speaking with you about some other issues regarding nationalizing the next election, which I'm sure you'll sign right on to, because you know it's a winner. Okay, and to finally end this edition of TowerGate, I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to report that we really have a lot of people now taking part in the voting process in this country, and that's wonderful because, you know, we really do need people to get out there and vote and exercise their constitutional right, a right that many people in other countries do not have, a right that many people have fought and died for. So I'm happy to report to you today that it appears that in the state of California, 144% of California residents voted in the 2016 election. That's right, 144% of California residents voted in the last election. That's really good. When you can get 144%, see, that's really good. That sure is. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are troubled by that, but just so you do know, yeah, Trump already understands that there was 4 to 6 million people, illegal people who voted in the last election, but he's already got people working on that. They're going to have that solved by 2020, believe me. by 2020, if the Democrats actually want to win California, New York, and New Jersey, they're going to have to do it the legit way, because Trump already has his people working on that, and they're going to be taking measures to make sure that you cannot achieve a 144% voting rate again. Thank you very much, California. We haven't seen the numbers out of New York, but you can bet it's probably 150% out of New York as well. Fantastic job. There you go. TowerGate, day 156, August the 8th, 2017, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to being back with you again tomorrow night, reading your comments in the comments section. Thank you for the thumbs up, sharing my videos. You all take care and have a good night. Goodbye.